Hello, welcome back to Lorehammer, the 40K podcast where we like to read about different things in the 40K world. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Everybody? No, I got no quips today.
That's fine, me either. Sometimes quips overrated, I find.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a serious podcast for serious people.
Yeah, exactly. We're intellectuals today, talking here about Khorne and the Blood Pact, but we also got Jordan joining us today, so we truly are the intellectual type.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. Jordan's so smart, he wears glasses even though he doesn't need them, but just for cool points.
Spectacles.
Cool. Well, today's episode, we're going to be talking about the dark and brutal legacy of the Blood Pact and the Sons of Sek, two of the most infamous chaos-worshipping warbands during the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, which is a pretty big kind of event. Lots of books are written around it. We got like the Last Chancellors are kind of in this. A bunch of different kind of things are in the Sabbat Worlds. So we're going to get into them and learn about these two kind of renegade traitor Imperial Guard forces. Before we get into it,
yeah, always welcome to do some housekeeping. Mark, go ahead. I almost got ahead of the notes there.
Join the Discord. It's pretty cool over there. We got a tabletop simulator game giveaway right now. Right now, they're just asking a bunch of questions on the Discord, and if you get enough right, you could win one of 4 copies of Tabletop Simulator. And then once you have that copy, you too can play 40K on Tabletop Simulator. So that's going to be pretty cool. I know we got quite a few people on there playing it now. Maybe we'll start a tournament sometime, but this is step 1. So come join the Discord. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if you guys want to help support the show, it's always appreciated. Go to Patreon and join the Imperial Tithe. You get ad-free version of the show for only $2.50 a month and video versions for $5. Obviously, you help us keep this show going. It is a lot of work. Mark puts in tons of hours. Like, legitimately, I'm being serious. This is a serious podcast.
Very serious podcast. Yeah, I got to be able to pay the monkeys and bananas that write on the typewriter this script. So it adds up, and banana prices
Banana prices are through the roof right now. So yes, help support the show. Join the Imperial Tithe and become a hero of the Imperium.
Absolutely. And if you are part of the Imperial Tithe, you can also get access to the live chat room during the show. It's always a good, fun time, nice and lively in the show. And then you can also join on the video as well. And join me for some whiskey and Warhammer. Today we have a new bottle of JP Weiser's 10-year aged. It's a brewery out of Toronto. It's a Canadian one. And it goes down nice and smooth, especially we talk about chaos cults, because I think that's just like a great pair. It's like whiskey and chaos cults.
I hope they better be paying for that ad you just dropped, Jordan.
Absolutely, they are. And we are also doing. If you're a member of the Patreon, you can also be a call-in guest at the end of the show, and those are always fun too. So.
Yeah, very cool. I know sometimes we go long on the show, so we don't always get to the call-ins, but we definitely try our best to. So let's dive into the episode. The Blood Pact and the Sons of Sek. We kind of briefly mentioned the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, and maybe I'll start by reading just a little paragraph or two about that to kind of get us in the mind of the setting that we're in before we jump to these two traitor cultists. The Sabbat Worlds Crusade was an imperial crusade fought over the course of more than 45 standard years, beginning in 755 M41, which had not yet ended by 791 M41, to retake the Sabbat Worlds sector, located at the rimward edge of the Segmentum Pacificus from the heretical forces of chaos. This crusade was one of the largest and most significant imperial operations undertaken in the 41st millennium, and ultimately ended solar decades later in the reconquest of the sector by the armed forces of the Imperium of Man. Yeah, like I said, like this is a huge sector. It's kind of, if we have fantasy fight games and they made up their Calixis sector, we had whoever wrote the book Abraham Gaunt. I forget the author of that guy. I think it's Dan Abnett who wrote the Gaunt Scout series. But this is like his like personal sector in the 40K universe, and he's fleshed it out so much, from all the different players involved to all the different planets and all that. If you want to learn more about it, maybe that's an episode at some time. But basically all we need to really know, it's a sector like many other sectors. It's ravaged by war and specifically infected with chaos taint.
Yeah, sounds awful. My taint sometimes gets infected with chaos too.
Oof. Yeah, you don't want that, man. Once you get that taint in there, you never get it out.
Get it out. Not truly.
It lingers. All right, so let's jump into the Blood Pact. They hide their faces in snarling iron, but the cruelty in their hearts is manifest in their brutal deeds. We are lost and we are done. May the God Emperor forgive our failure and protect our souls. And that's the last transmission of General D-List Urdash. The Blood Pact is a bloodthirsty chaos cult, forged in the ruthless devotion of the blood god Khorne, and driven to secure chaos dominance over the Sabbat Worlds through violence and fanaticism. Sworn to the service of the infamous Archon Urlock Gaur, the masterful chaos warlord of the Sabbat Worlds sector, the cult derives its name from the sinister and binding chaos ritual that seals its warriors into eternal loyalty. This profane initiation requires the aspirant to slice open their palms on the jagged edges of the Archeon's power armor, a deliberate act of agony and submission to both Khorne and their warlord. In rare cases, when the initiate's hands are vital tools of slaughter, such as snipers, another part of the flesh is often offered to complete the Blood Pact. This gruesome ritual marks each warrior as bound not by blood, but by purpose, to kill, conquer, and shed blood, the blood of their enemies for Khorne's unending thirst. Unlike the frenzied war bands of the berserkers that define most Khornite cults, the Blood Pact is a sinister anomaly. They fight with unnerving discipline, their precision and organization rivaling that of the Imperium's finest astral militarium regiments. The Blood Pact is not a mindless rabble of killers, but a formidable war machine, blending highly trained human troops with alien mercenaries, their unity forged in blood and chaos.
That's kind of interesting because I'm not that familiar with like disciplined, regimented chaos warriors, I guess. I guess I'm not as versed as some people, but in my reading, most of them are chaotic, for lack of a better word.
You would think.
Yeah. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I chose these two, the Blood Pact and the Sons of Sek. We've talked many times about how the different gods can pull power from you in different ways. If you're serving Slaanesh, it's not just the drug, sex, and rock and roll. There's also other things involved. So I thought this would be a kind of a good little teaser or a little flavor of different ways to serve Khorne. Because like you said, yeah, it's very unique that they have like this regiment strict Imperial Guard regiment, essentially.
Yeah, and like there is a martial discipline aspect to Khorne, right? Like in honor and those kinds of war aspects. So it's not just blood for blood's sake or just mindless slaughter. Although arguably like any slaughter could be mindless, but there is like a purpose and a discipline behind the way they do war, which is cool. I always like factions that kind of buck the trend and show that there's other ways to do things. You're not always just a mindless berserker.
Yeah, you're working on right now some Khorne berserkers, but instead of melee weapons, they all have bolt guns and stuff and heavy weapons, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can still commit slaughter from afar. There's no reason they shouldn't be able to do that. I don't care what the rule book says.
It can't stop me. Yeah. Another kind of cool facet of them is they are willing to work with alien mercenaries, and we'll get a lot more into which aliens they work with. But this is kind of another one of those concepts of Khorne doesn't really care where the blood flows how it flows, who's doing the flowing. Just as long as it flows, he's happy. The Blood Pact's armies were instrumental in the brutal conquest of the Sabbat Worlds. Their calculated savagery tearing through Imperial defenses and leaving planets soaked in blood. As the Imperium wages wars in Sabbat Worlds Crusade to reclaim its war-torn sector, the Blood Pact stands as an unyielding bulwark, defending Chaos Dark Dominion with merciless efficiency. Ruthless, disciplined, and utterly devoted to Khorne, the Blood Pact remains one of the most sinister and terrifying threats in the Sabbat Worlds. Yeah, they're pretty cool. So, I know a little bit about them. Like, this is kind of the teaser about them. I've known a little bit about them. I believe it was UK Matt who gave me a copy of the Sabbat Worlds like art book, and it was a hardcover book, and it just had such beautiful artwork in it, and all these crazy pictures of these guys. Did you ever look at that one, Christian?
Yeah, I've browsed every book you own, which isn't many, but yeah, I have.
Yeah. Pretty cool. These guys from there. So I've read a little bit about them, and I know a little bit more about like their leaders and stuff, but yeah, be cool to get a little more info.
Yeah. So let's delve a little bit into their history. Actually, before that, just in the comments there, Skeleton was saying Khorne also supports donating blood. Yeah, a little known fact is Khorne is also the god of really messy surgery. So yes, there are many aspects to Khorne that are misunderstood. All right, the Blood Pact's history. The true origins of the Blood Pact remain a mystery, veiled by the blood-soaked legends of the Sabbat Worlds and fragmentary scraps of Imperial records. What little can be pieced together suggests their inception roughly 3,000 standard years ago on the feral world of Gura at the edge of the sector. Here, under the iron rule of a feudal overlord known as Gaur, the seeds of their terrifying rise were sown. The way that's spelled, I don't know if there's a lot of metal fans in here. It's not like Gwar, Gwar, it's Gaur, but I wonder if the author intended that on purpose. Gwara's tribes were bound to the Gaur, who led a priesthood steeped in blood and ritual. Devoted to the chaos god Khorne, over time, this dark priesthood was forged into a martial order, a brutal and fanatical elite bodyguard for their master. The savage rites of sacrifice they once performed mutated into a sinister tradition of militaristic discipline, their slaughter honed to perfection. With the acquisition of spacefaring technology, the Gaur's influence began to infect neighboring worlds, spreading like a plague across the Sabbat Worlds. Or Sabbat Worlds. To swear the Blood Pact with the Gaur became a mark of power and nobility, binding warriors to the service with their own spilled blood.
So you got this like feral world that, you know, they're just kind of doing all their crazy rituals and killing people mindlessly, and then they get access to some spaceships, so they just start running amok.
Never give bloodthirsty savage tribes spacefaring technology. It's just always
it's
ends.
Rule number one.
Always ends this way. Have you not read Dune? Through the centuries, the Blood Pact evolved from an elite guard into an army drenched in carnage, its numbers swelling until it could rival entire regiments. Today, Imperial intelligence estimates that the Blood Pact fields an astonishing 750,000 warriors, an unprecedented force for a Khornate cult. Each member of the Sinister Legion is personally inducted into the pact by the reigning Gaur, their loyalty sealed in pain and blood. 750,000 warriors is a lot, but I always struggle, man. GW and their numbers, like,
yeah,
you would think
that's pretty low
for like a spacefaring military.
Yeah,
but it does say 750,000 for a chaos Khornate cult specifically. Like, maybe just because they kill and get killed a lot, but like, if you think of attrition rates and especially the style of warfare you typically engage in as a Khornate cult, you would think they would need more numbers to sustain more casualties, but nevertheless.
Yeah, like the U.S. Army has almost 1 million people apparently. So
But again, like how much of that is support roles, right? Like, do you think a Khorne cult, how they balance out frontline versus support, like that is where you kind of get blur the lines. Like, even in my case, this warband I'm creating with bolters, like they will need to source ammunition if they're gonna, exist for any length of time. So
it does say like 750,000 warriors. So I mean, we could probably assume there's more support role personnel, sort of like 3-4 times that, maybe. I don't know, just a guess.
Yeah, we can always almost assume GW numbers are a little wonky and move past them, but also sometimes fun to know. And then you're like, I want to be the first guy to collect all 750,000 blood pact people. Which I know those nerds out there. Somebody's gonna do it.
Yeah. That's where you get the guys that buy full chapter complements of Space Marines.
Exactly.
The Imperium first encountered the Blood Pact during the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, launched in 755 and 41, to reclaim the sector from Chaos's grasp. The Sabbat Worlds had been colonized in the 35th millennium after an earlier Imperial crusade led by the saintly figure Sabbat herself, and had driven chaos from the region. However, in 600 M41, the Sabbat Worlds fell once more, conquered by a vast chaos horde under the warlord Archon Urlock. So the Sabbat Worlds are actually fairly new to the Imperium on the scale of the Imperium's timeline. This isn't places that were like from the Great Crusade. This is fairly recently conquered.
Yeah.
I think it was like 3,000 years in my maybe we'll get there, but 3,000 years or something prior to the 41st millennium.
It's when they
when
colonization
they
in the 35th.
Okay. Oh, okay, 35th. Okay, yeah, 5,000 years. Yeah. So pretty recent.
On the Imperial scale. Nadzabar's army was no singular force, but a fractious alliance of chaos warbands, each commanded by a magister who served as his lieutenant. Among these sinister names, Anakwanar Sek, Enoch Inokenti, Sholen Skara, Heritor Asphodel, and Nokad the Blighted stood Urlock Gaur, the overlord of the Blood Pact. The Sabbat Worlds burned under their dominion, their magisters carving their names into the annals of infamy through blood and terror. I suppose they would also carve their names into the annals of history as well. The tide turned at... Yeah, all great stories are carved into the annals of history. The tide turned at the Battle of Balahut, where Warmaster Slato, appointed by the High Lords of Terra, led a vast imperial army to confront Nadzabar's forces. Though Slato fell in battle, his sacrifice ensured that the death of Nadzabar and the routing of chaos from the field. In the aftermath, the surviving magisters tore each other apart in a brutal struggle for supremacy. Out of this carnage rose Urlock Gaur, the new Archon, who rallied the remnants of chaos under the banner of the Blood Pact. So as chaos does, whenever a leader falls, they kind of fall into civil war and strife and like fight for the new leader, right?
Yeah. What is that called again? When that
power vacuum?
Yeah, power vacuum. It creates a power vacuum for them that they all just said, fight over.
Under Gar's brutal command, the Blood Pact became the spine of the Chaos forces in the Sabbat Worlds. Smaller warbands pledged themselves to Gar, sealing their loyalty with his bloody ritual to share in his power and spoils. Imperial forces soon identified the Blood Pact as the most disciplined and elite Chaos force in the sector. Their reputation solidified during the Battle of the Akrite Peninsula on Belshir Binary. On this Prometheum-rich world, a mere 200 Blood Pact warriors, supported by 4 stock tanks and 2 Locksaddle Xenos brood groups, annihilated a force of 3,000 Imperial Guardsmen. Under the command of Vesh Etogor, a rank equivalent to Colonel, the Pact forces waited in stifling heat for 3 days, unmoving until their ambush could strike with devastating precision. The slaughter lasted only 22 minutes, leaving the Akrite Peninsula's vital refineries in Chaos's grip for another 15 standard months. That's crazy. 200 warriors 4 tanks, and 2 brood groups, which we don't know how big those would be, but still a fairly small force took out 3,000 Imperial Guards.
Yeah, yeah. That's a bad day for that guards colonel.
Yeah.
Guardsman colonel.
The Blood Pact's cold-blooded efficiency and sinister devotion to Khorne stand as a grim testament to their power. They are no mere rabble of berserkers, but a disciplined and fanatical army, a relentless and calculating force that turns the fields of battle into charnel houses in Khorne's name. Their blood-drenched legacy continues to haunt the Sabbat Worlds, a reminder of Chaos's capacity for both savagery and sinister strategy.
Yeah, that's kind of, that last little bit of just the disciplined fanatical army. That's probably one of the big factors in how those 200 took on the 3,000. They just weren't expecting it. Every time you encounter these guys, you see them from across the field, and you're looking through your binoculars and you see them cutting their hands and doing all these rituals, and you're just waiting for them to charge, yell and charge, but they never do. And then they set up a little ambush and a trap for you, and then you start taking casualties. And it's just totally unpredictable what they're going to do, but not because it's chaotic. It's just you don't expect it. It's not.
It's unexpected. Yeah, for sure. And it makes sense for the most efficient slaughter. Like, if your goal is numbers and bodies, to be calculating about it, you will end up with killing more of them, right? If you just do like your standard berserker charge and like you have no strategy involved, like, you are going to sustain lots of your own casualties and maybe not be as efficient in the slaughter. But if you're really thinking about it and you're calculating, you can do immense damage with a small number of people.
Yeah.
Which, isn't that what serving Khorne is really all about anyways?
It is, yes.
I don't know.
And it's about
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, you go. Start reading.
I was going to say, we'll find out when we read about the beliefs of the Blood Pact. To the blood-drenched fanatics of the Blood Pact, the Emperor is not a foe to be despised, but a figure to be redefined, a wayward herald of the warp who must be unmasked. In their twisted theology, he is not the savior of humanity, nor the foe of chaos, but merely another manifestation of the immaterium, a false god, blinded by his own ambition and hubris. They do not deny his power, but see it as a reflection of the very forces they revere, the entities of chaos.
It's kind of interesting, even right away. These guys are a little bit of philosophers. Normally, Khorne aren't known for their thinking as well, but like a tactical mind is also a philosophical mind, I suppose, where they're thinking about, okay, maybe the Emperor is something more. And we'll learn a little bit more as Jordan continues reading, but it's just another very interesting twist on Khorne warriors.
It is also kind of interesting, like, theologically, I think about, like, through history, how a lot of different sects and groups have viewed something like Jesus or Christ. And obviously, like, in 40K, the God Emperor is sort of the Christ figure. And in history, like, you have like the Gnostics who viewed Christ as not the same way that the Christians had viewed Christ, but they still viewed him as like a divine being. And you also have like the Muslims who also view Christ as like a divine being or a prophet, but not this. They have a very different theology about who he is, as opposed to like how the Christians do. So it is interesting that you have, like, they still in a sense believe in the Emperor, just that he's something else other than what the dogma is. So anyways, to the Blood Pact and their allies, including the zealous Sons of Sek, the Emperor is no different from a demon or even the Chaos Gods themselves. In their eyes, he has been irrevocably touched by the warp and reshaped by its tides, a being whose essence is inseparable from the immaterium. They see him as a tragic, misguided figure, a prophet who glimpsed the truth of the warp, but led humanity astray with false teachings. commanding them to resist the very source of his own strength. This grotesque belief fuels the Blood Pact's holy war. They consider it their sacred duty to expose the Emperor for what he truly is, a creature of the warp, no more divine than the dark gods they venerate. To them, the Imperium's dogma is a lie, a schism born of ignorance and fear. Their mission is not to annihilate the Imperium, but to enlighten it, to shatter the chains of the Imperial creed and deliver humanity into the embrace of chaos. This is like kind of it, like a interesting twist on the view of the emperor, obviously, but even just like sort of the theology of the Imperium, because it's like it's different. These guys are like very different than how I usually would envision chaos, because they actually have like an ideology. It's not just like the raw, naked pursuit of power like a lot of chaos is. It's like it's like very ideologically driven, and there's actually like logic to it,
Yeah, it's not just driven by selfish means or something like that.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how they like, one of the things they're pissed off about is like they are like, the Emperor's hiding the warp from us all, even though like we're all warp beings, and then he taps into the warp himself. It's so funny. That's what's making them so pissed off.
And they have a right.
I was about to say they're kind of right.
The chaos cult did nothing wrong. Okay. In their eyes, the people of the Imperium are already unwittingly worshiping the warp, venerating a god whose very existence is intertwined with its currents. They believe that only through chaos can true understanding be achieved, that only by surrendering to its corrupting power can one ascend to their ultimate aspiration. Unity with the warp itself, a transformation into something far greater and more terrible than mere mortality. The Blood Pact does not seek destruction for its own sake. Theirs is a campaign of salvation through subjugation. They see themselves as liberators, bearing the truth of chaos to a galaxy shackled by lies. The war they wage is against the false shepherds of the Imperium, the priests and soldiers who perpetrate the Emperor's deception and guard the gates of ignorance. To the Blood Pact, every battlefield is a holy site, every act of violence a step toward revelation. Their fanatical creed holds that the Imperium must not be erased, but reshaped, reborn as a realm that acknowledges the warp as the true source of power and enlightenment. In their sinister vision, the Imperium will bow not before a distant, unyielding God, but before the living truth of chaos, embracing the horrors they have long resisted as the path to ultimate transcendence. I think these guys are like actually like very devout in a lot of ways. They're very committed to their cause. It's like I said, maybe I'm repeating myself, but like it's not just like a naked pursuit of power or
ambition or something like that. Like they believe in the warp. They believe in the gods of the warp. They believe that when they die, they're going to merge with the warp if they've done enough violence and gain the favor of a god. And they look at like what came first, the materium or the immaterium. It's hard to say, but these guys definitely feel like they're getting like the immaterium came first, and that's the true source of creation and power, and that's the true source of an afterlife, and that's maybe where our souls came from, all that kind of stuff. It's quite the philosophy they have. They're like evangelists, man. They're going out there and be like, you can have unlimited life too. Just come burn this planet to the ground with us.
It's for their own good, okay?
Yeah. So we have their organization. How do they go about? How does their beliefs manifest on the battlefield and how they organize? The Blood Pact, or a monstrous creation of blood-drenched fanaticism, was forged from the warriors of the sanguinary worlds, a cluster of planets surrounding Goria, steeped in violence and devotion to chaos. Over time, this once localized force has grown into a sprawling and diverse war machine. uniting countless cults, renegades, and mercenaries beneath its crimson banner. Its officers, zealots of ruthless cunning, and actively seek to absorb other Chaos-aligned forces, particularly traitor Astra Militarum regiments, folding them into the Blood Pact's ranks with promises of blood, glory, and servitude to the Dark Gods. Alongside these corrupted soldiers mark alien horrors like the reptilian Loxodal, hired as mercenaries to sow even greater terror among their foes. When Urlock Gaur forged the Blood Pact in a blade aimed at the Imperium's heart, he did so with calculated malice. Studying the structure and tactics of the Astra Militarum regiments waging war in the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, he reshaped his Khorne soldiers to be their equal. An unholy mirror of the Emperor's finest, these warriors undergo grueling training, mastering the arts of marksmanship, close combat, and survival. Yet their training is not merely physical, it's spiritual. Every Blood Pact soldier is subjected to relentless indoctrination, conditioned to obey without hesitation, bound to the unshakable loyalty to their leaders, their Archon, and above all, Khorne. The result of this force is unrelenting killers who will not break. Where Imperial Guardsmen might falter or retreat, the Blood Pact stands firm, grinding forward with grim resolve until every enemy is slain or their mission is fulfilled. Death is not their fear, failure is. To die with their objectives incomplete is to betray both their god and their Archon, a disgrace too terrible to imagine. At the tip of the Blood Pact spear are its most elite warriors, the Death Brigades. These shadowy and merciless units are the embodiment of terror and precision, deployed as vanguards, bodyguards to senior officers, or shock troops to execute the most critical missions. They are the chaos equivalent to the Imperial Guard stormtroopers, but where the Imperium instills discipline and duty, the Death Brigades are driven by unholy zeal and bloodlust. Their reputation alone is enough to break weaker foes, and their actions leave a trail of carnage that echoes long after they have passed. Yeah, it's cool how these guys are like a guard regiment, essentially. They were created, the guy who created them was like, okay, I need to be able to match, this is my main enemy. I got to be able to do everything they do, but better. So even in the recruitment process, he'll take actual full-on guard regiments. It's not just like these cultists of, manufactorum workers who are fed up with their 24-hour day job. These are military men that they're taking and then further training. And it even goes into like they have their own like stormtrooper equivalents, and like you could go through the whole regiment kind of list and come up with the equivalent here. Pretty cool to do. The Pact's hierarchy is an inversion of imperial structure, reflecting its bloody creed. Ranks are affixed to names as titles of power and devotion, each higher rank bringing a soldier closer to the Archon himself. The term Gaur, derived from the title of their master, is embedded in the ranks to signify their bond to Urlock Gaur's dark vision. Known ranks include the Ito Gaur, equivalent to an imperial colonel, the Damogar, roughly a major, and the Sidar, a lieutenant, while the exalted High Sidar with the exalted High Sidar serving as captains. The Blood Pact is no mere rabble of cultists, is an army of unrelenting fanatics, wielding the surgical precision in the service of chaos. They fight not just to kill, but to conquer, to defile, and to spread the dark truth of Khorne's dominion across the stars. To face them is not to face men, but a tide of blood and steel, unyielding until every drop of life has been spilt. Yeah. Cool. They spread the dark truth of Khorne's dominion.
It does kind of mirror the Imperium a lot. Just even all the way they're organized, their beliefs. There's sort of like this mirror opposite of what the Imperium is, but obviously, like they're way, way smaller.
Yeah. Yeah, you could imagine them.
You can argue that the Imperium is a form of a death cult too, right? Like
that's true.
Their fanaticism, the way they do warfare, the cheapness of human life, the elevation of, death. All those are also like you're right, Jordan. Not just in the mirroring of their ranks and things, but like they are a dark imitation or a reflection, really, just a reflection of the Imperium, just worshiping a different god.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Mark? Sorry.
It's gone. I forgot.
I was gonna let you talk fast, or the thought will flutter away like a butterfly.
Yeah, like a fart in the warp.
Eaten by a demon of Nurgle. That's a nice little treat. All right, let's get into their combat doctrine. Unlike the frenzied hordes of a typical Khorne warband, the Blood Pact stands apart as a grimly disciplined military force, wielding strategy and tactics with the same precision as their bloodstained blades. They do not rush headlong into battle as mindless berserkers, but instead adopt calculated maneuvers and coordinated assaults, making them a far more sinister and effective enemy. Their fanaticism is not chaotic, it is cold, deliberate, and sharpened to a murderous edge. Each Blood Pact trooper is armed for versatility, carrying standard-issue ranged weapons such as a lasgun or autogun. Their tools of death allow them to suppress and eliminate their foes from afar, reserving their savage melee implements, combat knives, billhooks, clubs, and grenades, for the brutal hand-to-hand carnage of trench warfare and urban slaughter. In close quarters, they thrive, turning narrow corridors and ruined streets into killing grounds soaked in the blood and screams. The Pact's access to war material is disturbingly vast, owing to their conquest of Imperial Forge worlds like Urdesh and Nephethil within the Sabbat Worlds sector. From these captured forges, they have looted a deadly arsenal of Imperial pattern infantry weapons, artillery, and armored vehicles. This stolen technology enables the Blood Pact to mirror the Imperial Guard's sophisticated combined arms tactics, wielding their enemies' tools against them in acts of savage irony.
Cool. I wonder if they still have these Forge Worlds and like they're just on the back end, just constantly supplying them with all the tanks and the gear and stuff. I think they probably do.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of two things. One, they do conquer the Forge Worlds and then just take a bunch of slaves and force them to labor and make their war
Yeah.
material. Or two, they just loot like the vast armories and just let the world burn behind them. Either
Yeah,
one, I mean, with chaos, either one is equally possible. But
yeah. But they get access to all the good stuff. Like, yeah, okay, so now it's turning even more into this guard regiment where now they have tanks on demand. Excellent, excellent.
artillery, flying assets, like whatever the guard has, they probably have it too. However, their armored squadrons, while formidable, are not equal to those of the Imperium in scale or quality. Blood Pact tank units typically rely on lighter vehicles such as the Urdeshi pattern STEG-4 or the AT-70 Reaver tanks. Yet their arsenal includes a limited number of AT-83 Brigand Reaver tanks. Oh, sorry. I think I skipped a line. Yet their arsenal includes a limited number of AT-83 Brigand main battle tanks and even a rare collection of Baneblade super heavy tanks. These monstrous engines of war, piloted by blood-drunk cultists, give the Pact an unexpectedly devastating punch on the battlefield. Yeah, man, like if you're able to steal a super heavy, like a freaking Baneblade, like you got some firepower.
Yeah, I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to see a Chaos Khorne Baneblade where its gun, instead of shooting cannons, it just vomits out blood on everything.
Hot boiling blood.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an acid thrower, but with hot boiling blood.
You know, there's a lesson in all this. Best
What?
not to let your war material fall into your enemy's hands. Like, I don't know, abandoning stronghold positions in a desert region
In the dead of night.
letting cultists take all your stuff.
Those cultists couldn't possibly figure out how to pilot a Baneblade, though, could they?
Well,
They're just dirty savages.
Blackhawks, man. All right. Anyways, among their war machines, the most horrifying are their stock tanks, smaller variants of Chaos Space Marine demon engines. These spider-like abominations scuttle on 6 piston-powered arachnid legs and are armed with twin-linked pulse lasers mounted on turreted carapaces. The sight of a stock tank scuttling across the battlefield, its guns searing flesh and armor alike, is enough to break even the staunchest Imperial defenders. Little cute crab tanks rolling around. They kind of remind me of Soul Grinders.
Yeah.
Rumor, side note, I heard that they're looking at getting rid of the Soul Grinder, which would be very, very sad.
Yeah, it's an old model. Like it could definitely
Yeah.
use an update, but still, you don't want to get rid of stuff ever. We need it all.
It's been
For
around, like
posterity.
it's a signature chaos vehicle from like the beginning.
Yeah. It is cool that since these guys aren't like a tabletop army, that's not where they came from. They came from, Dan Abnett's books or whatever. They get all these cool and interesting things. Like we listed a bunch of tanks that they sound made up to me. They're not very 40k, and even the stock tanks. They're these unique things for this very specific thing in the galaxy at this very specific time. But it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It lets your creativity go kind of free.
Yeah, and again, kind of speaking to that, like if you're creating your own factions or sectors of the galaxy, like there are vehicles and things that aren't as prolific. Like there could be unique vehicles to your area,
Yeah.
especially like special environments and stuff, like a snow vehicle or like an underwater vehicle or a boat.
Yeah.
Something missing in
Boats.
40k. All right. That's for another episode. All Blood Pact vehicles are ritualistically painted in the dull of red of dried blood, the pigment harvested from the corpses of their slaughtered enemies. These machines of war are adorned with heretical symbols such as the Chaos Star and the Mark of Khorne, and festooned with grisly trophies, human skulls, flayed skins, and mutilated bodies of fallen Imperial soldiers. Savage Khornate slogans scrawled in blood are carved into the metalwork, further defile their hulking forms, proclaiming their devotion to the blood god in every crimson streak detail. I wonder how effective human blood is as a paint. Like, does it just wash off every
good.
time they...
Yeah, that's the downside of it. It looks good until the first rain comes, but the other downside of it, it gets stinky as well.
Yeah, that's true. These guys probably smell horrific. The Blood Pact's terror extends beyond their conventional forces, for they also command dark sorceries in the form of their dreaded Gaur mages. These vile psychers are a heretical anomaly among Khornate cults, as Khorne abhors the use of sorcery. Yet in the Sabbat Worlds, even Khorne's sacred laws bend to the promise of unbridled carnage. Gaur mages wield forbidden powers that radiate a palpable aura of dread, unsettling even their own comrades. Their sorcery demands bloodshed to fuel its potency, and their most horrifying ability is to transform ordinary Blood Pact warriors into demon hosts. These cursed hosts erupt into grotesque forms known as blood wolves, feral lesser demons of Khorne that tear through the enemy with unholy ferocity. The existence of Gaur mages and their sorcery is an unprecedented and sinister omen. It suggests that Khorne himself is willing to set aside his disdain for psychic power in pursuit of victory, underscoring the Blood Pact's grim purpose as instruments of chaos. They are not just soldiers; they are heralds of annihilation. Their discipline and savagery combining to create a force as unrelenting as a blood god's thirst for slaughter.
Man, they've just added now like their third piece of that's not standard. This whole their Gaur mages and the psychers and all that. That's so cool that they're just like, no, this is a good way to kill things. Like Khorne, watch what happens when I explode his head with raw psychic energy. Trust me, you're gonna like the popping sound. And Khorne did.
Khorne approved.
Khorne approved. Yeah, Gaur mage is such a sweet term. That's how they boil the blood that their Bane blades shoot out their cannons. The Gaur mages in the back are cooking up a little
Blood
warp
magic.
Yeah. Like it.
Nice. All right, shall we jump into the war gear of the Blood Pact? The Blood Pact warriors present a grotesque and sinister image of corrupted martial order, appearing as a twisted parody of an Imperial Guard regiment. The equipment and uniforms are largely sourced from Imperial designs, either looted from the corpses of slain guardsmen or manufactured on chaos-held Forge Worlds, but bear the unmistakable marks of their allegiance to Khorne and the forces of chaos. Clad in ragged uniforms, dyed the dark red of congealed blood, the Blood Pact soldiers transform mundane military attire into an unholy symbol of their devotion. Each piece of armor, whether cloak, flak, or carapace, is stained with the blood of their enemies. A grim tradition born of one of their most sacred Khornate rituals. After every victorious slaughter, the blood of the vanquished is used to dye their garments, infusing them with the essence of death. The stench of decaying blood clings to them, an ever-present reminder of their savagery. That's kind of awesome.
Have you guys ever seen Apocalypto?
I did a long time ago, and I need to watch
Just
it again.
watch it last night. It's maybe it's not about Mayans, maybe it's about Aztecs, but whatever. It's about like South American natives or whatever, and they had some scenes where they're just ripping hearts out, and everyone's just covered in blood, and there's just stacks of body everywhere, and all I could think of is just the smell. The whole movie, man, it either smells like shit because there's some shit covered guy over there, or just the pile of corpses, man. Good movie though.
Oh man, yeah, they were brutal. If anyone like goes into the history of well, actually sort of the end of the Aztecs, when the Spanish came over, Christian, what was the name of Mexico City, like ancient Mexico City? It was like the
Tenochtitlan.
Yeah, Tenochtitlan. Yeah, Tenochtitlan is however you say it. Yeah. Yes. Well, there when like the Spaniards were there, and actually like it was like 200 or 300 Spanish warriors who just like slaughtered these people. They just like stood no chance. Gunpowder versus bows and arrows. But there's this kind of one scene in the history of it where
a scene in history.
Yeah. Well, where the at least the recollection was like, in order to try and scare the Spaniards, the Aztecs would like day and night bring up prisoners to the top of the temple, and they would sacrifice them. But they would do it like very slowly so that you could like hear their screams like all through the night. And they were doing it.
Awful place to live.
Yeah.
Hey, can you stop killing people and tossing them off the structure? I'm trying to sleep here.
Well, the crazy thing is though that like during the Battle of Tenochtitlan, where like it was like one of the final battles of the Aztecs, they were doing this practice, and like it was probably part they were trying to access like demon powers to empower them to defeat the Spaniards, or chaos, if you will. And then but they were also trying to like play psychological games with the Spaniards to show them how savage and crazy they were, right, to try and break them down. However, these guys, they were giving them, while doing this, they were giving themselves like diseases and stuff, and it was like the diseases were like running through their all their soldiers and like killing them, and the Spaniards ended up just having to wait it out, and eventually they all just died of diseases. And probably this practice was one of the things that because they were sacrificing Spanish people, so they're exposing themselves to the blood and skin and bile of Spanish diseases, and
and then they just leave the corpses there on the side of the road. They're just stacked up. Of course, they're gonna die of diseases. Yeah. What are the healthcare system of the Blood Pact? Do they shoot them up with all types of enzymes and what? How many shots do you have to get?
If they allow like sorcery and stuff, you'd almost think that it would protect them. But I wonder, coating yourself in your enemy's blood,
not very advised as a long-term health strategy. Yeah, good way to catch any kind of bloodborne illness.
And he's talking to his fellow Nurgle guy.
AIDS.
Yeah, that's all the Imperium needs to do. They just have to send the guy in with AIDS and let them do their work.
Why did you join Nurgle? Well, actually, I joined Khorne first, but I got this really gnarly AIDS disease, and now here I am at Nurgle's side.
Also, just while we're talking about Aztecs, a little known fact too is that a lot of the neighboring, and we are going to bring up Mexico again because of the Xenos race that you mentioned before. But yeah, a little known fact is that actually a lot of other tribes sided with the Spanish and helped the Spanish to defeat the Aztecs, because the Aztecs would capture their own people and sacrifice them. So they weren't well liked by their neighbors.
The Aztecs were absolutely brutal to other.
Yeah, they were imperialistic. Like, it's the Aztec Empire. So they subjugated a bunch of other neighboring peoples. So yeah. As is the tale as old as time.
One more little
Christian,
tag
do you have
on
any
that.
Aztec blood?
No, my family actually comes from a different tribal group, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of peace and love.
No, I don't know a lot about their history. I should probably do a dive into them. But yeah. And that's another thing. There weren't only just Mayans and Aztecs. There were actually tons of different indigenous groups all over South Central America, and Mexico alone had multiple indigenous groups. So they weren't all Aztecs. What were you gonna say, Mark?
Hashtag not all Aztecs, I guess. So come of that. Now, the final thing before we get back to our notes, you ever heard of the Rainbow Warriors? Of course you have, Christian. They're a Astartes Space Marine chapter that are not made for the gays. The Rainbow Warriors are actually based off Aztecs, apparently. Some of their old artwork kind of had that vibe to them.
Yeah. So, and oddly, they were named.
Don't let them fucking gaslight you into thinking otherwise.
And it's funny, their name is actually taken, I think, from a Greenpeace ship. So it's like just a weird, like, I think it was a ship called the Rainbow Warrior, and it was like trying to stop like pollution in the ocean, like in the 80s or whatever. And there was some incident. Google it.
Google it, bitch.
Yeah,
definitely environmental preservation is something Astartes chapters are very concerned about. So.
Yes, as are Aztecs as well. Yes.
All right. That was a nice rabbit trail. So no two Blood Pact warriors appear the same. Their kit is a chaotic amalgamation of plundered, manufactured, and customized pieces. Spiked bull helmets, iron plates, crudely riveted to cloth, and mismatched segments of scavenged flak and carapace armor from their gruesome battlefield attire. Yet amidst this variety, one element remains constant: a grotesque mask known as grotesques. These leering metal face masks, fashioned with oversized hook noses and menacing grimaces, are issued to every warrior. For common soldiers, these masks are made of iron and are often affixed to their helmets. For officers, the grotesques are forged from finer metals like copper, bronze, silver, or even gold, with material signifying their rank. Golden grotesques mark the dreaded Etagars, the highest ranking officers. Etogars. The warriors of the Blood Pact are a testament to Khorne's unrelenting creed of violence and sacrifice. Their hands are always exposed, scarred with ritual marks etched during their blood oath to serve the Gaur and the Blood God. These scars are not merely symbolic, but are expanded and deepened throughout their service, using their ritual combat knives, rusty, jagged blades issued to every soldier. They carve these wounds as offerings to Khorne, transforming their bodies into grim altars of devotion. The more severe the scars, the greater their perceived loyalty, with some warriors mutilating themselves until their flesh is a canvas of ruin.
Oh, man. Yeah, that would suck that that's a part of your job. You just always have to be cutting your fucking hands. But it would be pretty cool, man. I've seen some people paint these guys, and you see the scar tissue on their face and stuff, and some on their hands. Very cool little theme you can add in there.
Absolutely. Their arsenal is as brutal as their appearance. Standard issue weapons include las rifles, las pistols, or auto pistols, along with belts of stick grenades or for ranged combat. In melee, they wield bayonets, trench axes, pikes, or jagged saber knives, while officers are equipped with deadlier implements like chainswords, chain axes, or power weapons. Even their ritual knives, used for blood rites and sacrifices, can serve as weapons of last resort, though their primary purpose is far darker than mere combat. The Blood Pact's armored vehicles, like their infantry, are twisted imitations of Imperial designs, painted in the same dried blood hue and adorned with blasphemous chaos sigils. Chaos Star and the Mark of Khorne are etched into their hulls, transforming these engines of war into rolling shrines of destruction. This unholy military force operates with terrifying precision. Their brutal discipline, coupled with their fanatical devotion, ensure that they fight with grim resolve unmatched by many. Every scar, every blood-stained uniform, and every grotesque mask is a testament to their allegiance to Khorne, the Skull Throne, and their Archon. To face the Blood Pact is to face death itself, wielded by hands that revel in slaughter and chaos. Fun. Very fun.
They have very fun, neat hobby, neat pastime, guys.
Yeah, carving up
people like
their own
golf.
flesh. Yeah.
Some people like that. They have so much awesome artwork for these guys if you're into body mutilation, I guess. So that's how I'll define awesome in this sense. But yeah, so much awesome artwork for these guys. Up next, we'll talk about some more of the peculiarities that revolve around the Blood Pact. You know, we've named their discipline. We've named that they've like psychers. We've named that they have a lot of good war gear. They're not just a cultist rabble. So let's dive into some more. A sinister hallmark of the Blood Pact is the ruthless pragmatism in allying with Xenos breeds and alien mercenaries from the dark reaches of the outer worlds and the uncharted Imperial marches. Unlike the dogmatic Imperium, the Blood Pact has no qualms about leveraging the strengths of alien scum to further their bloody conquests. Chief among these collaborators are the abhorrent Loxatal, non-human mercenaries often deployed as shock troops to sow chaos and death in the name of the Blood God. The Loxatal are grotesque, sinuous quadrupeds. Their forms evolved from amphibian origins into something far more predatory and vile. Larger than a human, these creatures are unnervingly swift and agile, with muscular bodies that allow them to scale walls and even crawl across ceilings using their pronounced dew claws. Their speed and dexterity makes them terrifying combatants, able to strike from seemingly impossible angles. Yet, outside of water, their dull sense of sight, hearing, and smell are compensated by a chilling array of predatory adaptations. They hunt by taste and vibration, using their alien senses to track and corner their prey with precision. Their weapon of choice is an alien-crafted Fletcher blaster, a lethal device as repugnant as the creatures themselves. These blasters are mounted on mechanical armatures strapped to their torsos. The weapon's controlled through an incomprehensible mind impulse device. These designs frees the Loxatal's limbs from climbing and maneuvering, allowing them to remain mobile while raining death upon their enemies. The Fletcher blasters unleash devastating shot bursts filled with millions of sharp razor filaments, shredding armor and flaying flesh with horrifying efficiency. No wound inflicted by these weapons is clean. Victims are left as mangled, bloody remnants of their former selves. The Loxatal operate in tightly knit brood units, bound by biological kinship and communicating through alien methods incomprehensible to human minds. They exchange information through subsonic calls, vibrations, and mesmerizing displays of iridescent patterns that ripple across their slimy gray hides when in close proximity. These eerie skin flashes speak to the sinister intelligence honed by generations of predation. Oh, that's pretty cool how they kind of flicker their skin like this. There's a bunch of cool artwork for these guys too, including how they actually have their Fletcher blasters strapped on their torso and stuff. So go check them out as well.
Are they
Imperial troops? Yeah,
they go on all fours. Like, are they almost like a dog?
Quadrupedal.
Canine?
yeah. Like imagine like a salamander, like a lizard.
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
almost a little more humanoid. But
Yeah.
you know, it's crawling like that. It's got a lizard kind of body, a tail, and
Yeah, I'll flesh out the log saddle in a bit here when Mark's done, because there's a lot of interesting information there.
Cool. Imperial troops unlucky enough to face the Loxtatl have reported a distinct and nauseating odor heralding their presence, a foul stench likened to rancid milk mixed with crushed mint. This sickening smell is only waiting. Yeah, fuck it. Sure, blow off my arm with your fucking Fletcher rifle, but it's the smell that really gets to me. Yo, okay. You guys are parents as well. You know the smell of breast milk? I just smell it everywhere now. Once you have a kid, you just smell it everywhere. That's all. Thanks for coming.
I don't know if I've ever noticed the smell of breast milk.
Well, you're clearly not drinking enough of your child's breast milk. Taking it right from their mouth.
Fun fact, there are people, especially in the bodybuilding community, that do purchase breast milk, human breast milk online because of the HGH hormone that's in it. So if you want to get big, make sure you drink lots of your breast milk.
Fuzz says, I'm with you, Mark. It's a very unique smell. Yeah, for sure. And I bet every woman has their own very unique scent to it. So that's fun. Send in your breast milk to lorehammerpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll get some samples out to the public. He also
Mark
says,
will drink it live on the show.
yeah, I'll drink gallons of it for you if you pay me enough. Fuzz also says, are they based on the axolotl?
Axolotl.
Axolotl. You know what? They could almost be, but like
100% they are, Mark. That's what I was going to delve into.
Yeah,
talking about
like
Mexico.
I would just say it's like cute. Like that's the cute version of what these guys then are in 40K.
Yeah, really, it's just the name. And they are.
I mean, Bear Bears are cute bears, and bears are not cute.
Right, exactly.
They can also shoot rainbows out of their stomach, and I don't know what that means.
Bears typically spray blood everywhere after they slash you with their massive claws. No, the axolotl are found in actually specifically in the lakes around Mexico City, and 100% they at least took the name. And axolotl themselves are actually named after an Aztec god called Xolatl. So, and that god is a god of fire and lightning, which is also interesting because salamanders have a legendary association with fire, like from the old world. So it's just it's a weird syncretism where you have salamanders and fire going hand in hand, especially axolotl, who are actually amphibious and they actually typically live in water. But yeah, 100% the name at the very least is taken, and obviously like the lizard design is definitely axolotl. But axolotl are super cute compared to these monstrosities.
Yeah, look at this guy. He's got like a gun mounted to his chest and a bunch of rockets on his back or something.
Yeah, they look more like Komodo dragons, really.
Yeah, that could be a good way to describe it. Yeah,
and Komodo dragons are absolute savages. They are horrific creatures. If you want to Google what they do or videos of them consuming their prey alive, they're quite horrific. But yeah, I actually want to get an axolotl one day. They're cute. They look like they're smiling all the time. They're ridiculous looking animals. But yeah, that salamander and fire association I wanted to draw to you, because obviously the Space Marine Salamanders chapter also has a very strong fire theme, which also comes from like the mythical salamander, which is like associated with dragon mythology.
Yeah,
and like all this blood sacrifice, I think there is very much like an intentional Aztecian kind of vibe, a very loose Aztecian vibe with all this.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, very cool that the Blood Pact used these guys. And it's interesting. It's a lot about these guys too, that like they're able to, even though they have this weird form of communication that we don't understand, you're still able to make cool deals of war. Like, hey, you want to go kill some shit with me? So that's nice. I can still relate on that.
Yeah. And this actually comes up a lot about whether or not Chaos does align themselves with Xenos or not. And I imagine it's a full spectrum of like absolutely not. Some warbands still hold to their ideals of like xenophobia, of just like, no, like we killed you before, we'll kill anyone. All the way to factions that totally ally themselves with aliens under like a mutual goal.
Yeah. Skeleton asks, do the Loxatol take part in the same bloodletting rituals? Man, I would imagine not. But like they might have their own. Like they're worshiping Khorne too, by the sounds of it. So they might have their own. But like I was kind of saying, you can't really talk to these guys. There's no real way to communicate that ritual. And like, yeah, it's one thing to kind of be like, go over there, but it's another one to kind of describe the deep philosophy that these guys actually have, considering they're just berserkers.
Yeah, and especially like the deeper, like you said, the deeper thoughts around the emperor and stuff, who is a human. Like what does that mean for this species, right?
Yeah.
All right. Shall we get into the threat index and imperial policy? This is my favorite part. This is gonna be the dry stuff. The Blood Pact stands as a brutal and calculated scourge upon imperial security in the Segmentum Pacificus, a malignant force that embodies both the precision of scalpel and the savagery of an axe. Unlike the mindless hordes of the arch-enemy, this disciplined and methodical host operates as the elite arm of chaos, a blackened mirror to the noble Astra Militarum. Under the command of the charismatic and unrelenting Urlock Gaur, the Blood Pact grows like a festering wound, its ranks swelling with fanatical warriors drawn to its sinister allure. For the misguided and the damned, joining the Blood Pact is seen as a grotesque aspiration, a way to carve their names in blood and fury. The Pact's existence is a grim reminder of how the Imperium's greatest strengths, its military discipline and martial traditions, can be twisted into instruments of heresy. The Blood Pact is not a mindless rabble. It is a force honed and tempered into a weapon of devastating precision. Every encounter with them exposes the stark truth, a bitter lesson for the defenders of humanity. For this reason, Imperial High Command urges immediate suppression of Blood Pact activity wherever it festers, for their presence is not a symptom of random chaos raids, but a calculated prelude to a coordinated slaughter. So that's cool too. It kind of like tips them off like, hey, this isn't just a random flare up. Like we should, the enemy is coming and they are looking for strategic objectives and will likely be here in force.
Yeah, the Blood Pact didn't just show up on your planet. Somebody's been recruiting.
Yeah, or there's a target that they actually really want and they're here to take it. So the emergence of Blood Pact forces on a battlefield is a harbinger of premeditated and tactical chaos operations. Such sightings must be reported to fleet or subsector command at all costs, for they signify an organized threat rather than the chaotic spontaneity of lesser heretical uprisings. These vile legions, though lesser in number compared to the sprawling hordes of chaos, possess an unrelenting menace born of their savage discipline. Unlike the brutish and uncoordinated ferocity of typical of most chaos forces, the Blood Pact embodies a sinister precision, a rare and deliberate malignancy within the heretical legions of the Dark Gods. Their tactics and are a mockery of the Astra Militarum's own doctrines, turned against the Imperium with lethal intent. Worse still, records reveal that the Blood Pact will offer no quarter to most, and is known to attempt to subvert and recruit Imperial soldiers, either through coercion or outright force. Those who fall to their corruption are twisted into pawns for Khorne, their oaths of loyalty to the Emperor drowned in blood and madness. So that's a whole other dimension you got to be looking out for, because they're actually recruiting your own troops too.
Yikes.
The Blood Pact is not merely an enemy to be defeated. It is a contagion of treachery and destruction, spreading its foul influence across the stars. To face them is to confront not only death, but the insidious threat of corruption, as the pact seeks to dismantle the Imperium from within, one battle and one soul at a time.
Cool. They're out there. They're evangelizing.
Yep. They're spreading the good news of the Blood Pact and Khorne. All right. Shall we get into some of the characters of the Blood Pact, some of the notable fiends who find themselves as leaders or important members of the Blood Pact? So the first one
I prefer
is,
to call them sacred prophets myself, but
Ooh, yeah.
To each his own. So the first one is Urlock Gaur. To the Blood Pact, no figure is more revered, feared, or worshipped than their supreme warlord, Urlock Gaur. He is not merely their commander-in-chief, but the very embodiment of their savage covenant, the Dark Messiah, to whom every warrior pledges eternal loyalty, the ritual of blood. Gar's dominance over the Blood Pact is absolute, yet his trust in their ironclad discipline allows him to entrust entire divisions to the command of his senior officers and warlords, confident that their fanaticism will carry the Pact's will to a bloody fruition. When Gar takes the battlefield personally, his presence drives the blood-soaked horde into an even greater frenzy of precision and carnage.
A frenzy of precision.
Yeah, and carnage. You usually
And
don't see those two those two words like together. Anakwanar Sek, he's the next one on our list. Among the most infamous figures to rise under Chaos's banner, Anakwanar Sek was a masterful and fearsome magister of the ruinous powers. A servant first to Archon Urlock and later to Urlock Gaur during the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, Sek's name became synonymous with dread and destruction. His crowning achievement was the creation of the Sons of Sek, an elite and murderous warband devoted to chaos. Under Sek's cruel guidance, these warriors became the ultimate instrument of terror, their ranks forged in blood and unflinching devotion to the dark gods. Then the next one we got is Enoch Inokenti. Enoch Inokenti served as one of Urlock Gaur's most trusted demagogues, a lieutenant of venomous charisma and ruthless cunning, a preacher of heresy and a general of slaughter. Inokenti was instrumental in spreading Gaur's dark gospel across the Sabbat worlds. His words alone could ignite the fires of rebellion, while his presence on the battlefield inspired unholy fervor among the Pact's legions. Vesh Etogar. The name of Vesh Etogar is whispered with both awe and terror. His title, perhaps signifying a rank akin to a colonel, speaks of his position as a hardened leader within the Blood Pact. Under his unrelenting command, the Pact demonstrated its chilling efficiency during the infamous battle of the Akarite Peninsula of Belshir Binary in 771 M41. There, Vesh's forces lay concealed under the merciless sun for 3 agonizing days, enduring blistering heat without a single break in discipline. When the Imperial Guard finally entered the killing zone of their ambush, the trap was sprung with surgical brutality. Not a single guardsman survived the slaughter. Vesh's triumph at Akarite is remembered as a testament to the Blood Pact's pitiless resolve and their fanatical devotion to destruction. These names are etched into the chronicles of the Imperium's darkest foes, each a harbinger of chaos and an architect of ruin. They are not merely leaders. They are avatars of Khorne's will, spreading bloodshed and heresy across the stars. Their deeds serve as a grim reminder of the Blood Pact's relentless thirst for carnage and their unholy unity in the service to the ruinous powers. Well, they sound like nice guys.
Just lovely guys. You'd really want to invite them over to your place, have a beer with them, have some wings.
Yeah,
talk
let them
about
hang out
your
with your
shared
kids.
beliefs. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Your kids could learn a lot from them. Daddy, why does this man have so many scars on his hand? Well, because he's been trying to summon demons. So there you
That's
go, little girl.
actually the origin of my warband, as you can see in the thing there, the Bro Pact. We're just a bunch of fun guys hanging out.
Yeah. In order to be a part of the Bro Pact, we must touch tips together as a show of solidarity.
The ancient wiener ritual, we call it. Yeah.
Yeah, the Blood Pact are pretty cool. They have everything you need there. There's not that much information on them, really, but they have everything you need there for a very cool tabletop army, very cool kind of stories you can tell with them. I just like that, yeah, you can build them in a couple different ways that are just not your standard Chaos Cultist or standard Khornite worshippers. So very cool. I thought they're kind of worth that kind of look at.
Indeed.
What else to say about them? Now, we also are going to talk about the Sons of Sek in this episode. I'm just thinking if there's any other details about these guys we need to talk about. You guys have anything?
I don't know that I've seen official artwork like super in depth with them. But they still, even though they are like highly organized and they do have more of a uniform, I suppose I could just Google their images right now.
You could.
They tend to have like the face mask. They still have all like the chaos spikes and things. But they also have like a very pseudo German World War II, which is obviously an aesthetic that often gets painted on the most chaos factions with like Stahlhelms and stuff. But for them uniquely, like there's a very, the German army has always been kind of portrayed as being like very efficient and a lot like how the Blood Pact operates and is described.
Organized, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how deep that part of the lore is, but it's just an observation just based on their aesthetics.
Yeah. We do come back to the Blood Pact one more time in this episode after we talk about the Sons of Sek. So we'll see him again later tonight. But let's get to Sons of Sek and find out who they are and why are they always tied to the Blood Pact? For the glory of the Anarch, whose voice drowns out all others. War cry of the Sons of Sek. That does not roll off the tongue very well for a Khorne worshiper as he's trying to cut your head off. Just, I don't know.
Maybe it's in a different language or something.
Yeah, no, that does sound good, Jordan. You're right.
Mark, you're working on your Klingon, I see.
Yeah. The Sons of Sek are fanatical and ruthlessly disciplined warband, born from the cauldrons of chaos and forged in the fires of unwavering obedience. Under the iron grip of the master, magistrate Anka. How'd you guys say this guy's name? I'm just going to call him Sek. Anakwanar.
Anakwanar.
Yeah.
They serve not only as a weapon against the Imperium, but also as the first step in Sek's dark ambition to seize absolute power. These soldiers are not mere thralls. They are a brotherhood of terror, cold and calculating in their ferocity. With every blow they strike, they make a blood-drenched mark on the galaxy, as precise and unrelenting as the will of their commander. In the Sabbat Worlds Crusade, as a force of Urlock Gaur, the favored Archon of Chaos, clash with the Imperial war machine, it has become clear that the Sons of Sek, though newcomers to the battlefield, have proven to be a greater terror than even Gaur's Blood Pact. Combat reports whisper of their brutal efficiency, their cold, methodological slaughter, leaving little but shattered Imperial forces in their wake. Their prowess is not just a matter of training, but of devotion. Each son is an instrument of death, not driven by blind rage, but by fanatical obedience to Sek's grand vision. Yet beneath their martial brilliance lies a darker truth. The Sons of Sek are far more than mere warriors of chaos. They are the foundation of Sek's ultimate betrayal, a ruthless vanguard built not just to wage war against the Imperium, but to act as the spearhead for his insidious plot to unseat Urlock Gaur himself. Sek, ever the schemer, has no intention of serving as a mere general. He seeks to overthrow Gaur and claim the mantle of Archon, ruling over all the chaos forces in the Sabbat Worlds with blood-soaked hands. The Sons of Sek, forged in his own image, are the tools of treacherous ambition, unflinching, fanatical, and ready to spill blood of all those who dare stand in their way.
I thought, just based on the name, that the Sons of Sek were going to be a Chinchian warband. Just based on the name.
Yeah, the Sons of Sek are definitely a Khorne warband, and they align a lot more with your typical Khorne warband, and we'll find a lot out about that as we carry on. But they're definitely leaning more to your berserker trend.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it just sounds like Sons of Set, like the Egyptian god.
Well, it's not, Christian. Read the script.
Thank you. Yes, okay. Let's get into their history. The Sons of Sek were born in the crucible of war on the desolate, chaos-occupied world of Geryon, where they were forged through relentless brutality and iron discipline. It was on the corrupted world that the foundations of their ferocity were laid, and it was here that they first clashed with the Garyon resistance, proving their worth and solidifying their place in the annals of chaos. The resistance fell before them like wheat before the scythe, and the Sons of Sek cemented their reputation as an instrument of destruction, fully embracing the philosophy of their Dark Master. Their training, however, was not without a bloody price. It was the intelligence of a defector, the former Blood Pact officer Mabon Edugar, that laid the groundwork for the Sun's military efficiency. Edugar's knowledge of war tactics was invaluable, but the true edge came from a captured prize, the Imperial Lord Militant General Notch's Sturm. Once a man of honor, Sturm was broken, his mind and will bent to the will of chaos. He forsook the Emperor to serve Sek and his warband, providing them with the standard doctrines of the Astra Militarum, refining them with a brutal focus until they became the deadly methods now employed by the Sons. Sturm's fall from grace was inevitable, and when his treachery was exposed, it was the Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt who gave him a choice: death at his hands or self-inflicted dishonor. Desperately clinging to any semblance of honor, Sturm chose to end his life rather than face execution, his own despair sealing his fate in the eyes of the Emperor. Yet his legacy lived on, twisted and perverted in the blood-drenched hands of the Sons of Sek. Under Sek's unforgiving command, their methods were molded by the hands of the traitors and war criminals alike. The Sons' tactics, though drawn from the teachings of the Astra Militarum, had been corrupted and refined by the fanatical will of Edugar and the blasphemous teachings of Sek. Their training was brutal and unforgiving process, a dark parody of the imperial discipline where failure was punished with death or worse. The Sons of Sek were not mere soldiers. They were the culmination of years of betrayal, sacrifice, and bloodshed, now wielded as an unstoppable force of destruction for the glory of chaos.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Like, this is the classic case of chaos where it's chaos is eating itself. This whole war band is secretly playing nice with all the other chaos war bands, but they're just buying their time till they're powerful enough to overthrow them all.
Yeah. Classic chaos. What are you going to do?
Classic chaos. What are you going to do? Chaos gonna chaos.
All right, let's get into the beliefs of the Sons of Sek. The Sons of Sek, like their treacherous allies in the Blood Pact, embrace a perverse and twisted view of chaos theology, one that burns with the fanatical zeal of true heresy. To them, the Emperor is not a hated enemy, nor a being to be destroyed. No, they do not see him as a mere mortal man, but as another entity of the warp, just as the Chaos Gods are, or the Demon Lords themselves. To the Sons of Sek, the Emperor is no different from the twisted gods they serve. He is seen not as a protector of mankind, but as a misguided prophet, a deluded soul who, like all who glimpsed the immaterium, misunderstood the power he touched. He misled his followers into believing that the warp was something to oppose, to fight against. But the truth, as the Sons see it, is far darker, far more sinister. The Emperor, as a warp entity, is a symbol of their own perverse aspirations, a being forever changed by the powers of the immaterium, and one who has ascended to an almost divine state, just as they, too, yearn to do. Thus, the Sons of Sek and their blood-soaked cult do not seek the destruction of the Imperium. No, that would be too simple. They seek its reformation, a total rewriting of its faith, where the truth of the warp can be revealed. They believe the Imperium's mindless worship of the Emperor is a grotesque mockery of the true path, for in their eyes the Imperium is already venerating a being of the warp, whether they know it or not. The Emperor is no different from the gods they serve, and thus the Imperium's faith is nothing but a hollow lie. It is not the Emperor who must be torn down, but the false veil that is being pulled over humanity's eyes. They're real humanitarians, these guys. They just want what's best for humanity.
Yeah, I just imagine, like, okay, let's say somehow they do conquer the Imperium, these guys. What changes are they making? They're just like, hey, did you know the Emperor is actually a warp being? Then half the Imperium's like, yeah, we kind of figured that. That's why we worship him. And they're like, well, okay, as long as you guys know that he's a warp being, you're serving one, I'm serving one, we're good to, That's all we wanted you to know. Back
And
to that
maybe
terror for us.
I suspect, though, in that hypothetical, they would make it the Imperium serve Khorne or something to that effect.
Yeah. Can't serve this warp being, got to serve this one.
Yeah. All right. The true task of the Sons of Sek is to spread this horrific enlightenment, to unshackle the minds of humanity and bring them into the fold of chaos. To reveal that they have already been worshipping the warp without even realizing it. It is their holy duty to rip humanity from its false faith and show them the true path, the path of ascension through communion with the warp. And so, the war is not one of destruction, but of enlightenment, a relentless war to break the Imperium's chains and replace it with the unyielding embrace of chaos. Sons of Sek are not just fighting, they are saving, dragging humanity from the pit of delusion and offering them the only true path to divinity, the union with the warp. The Imperial Creed is not just a lie. It is the first step on the road to ultimate power, and they will see it twisted, broken, and remade in the image of chaos.
And they say there are no good guys in 40K. Look at these guys here.
Very obviously doing it for the people. Very obvious.
Yeah, man. No selfish intentions here.
The first truly altruistic people I've come
I think
across.
so. I really think so. Yeah, a lot of their beliefs are definitely similar to the Blood Pact, and a lot of the guys in the Blood Pact serve there, and then they move over to the Sons of Sek. So yeah, a lot of those beliefs would cross over. I'm trying to think if there's really a big distinction between these two. Maybe just fanaticism, where the Blood Pact are like, yeah, you're worshiping a false god. He's probably a warp being, whoever bled for the blood god. But these guys are like a little deeper, like you should serve the blood god with us as well. Like we serve the true god. You could have unlimited power too. You might even be able to get a demon prince status one day if you want. They seem a little more willing to preach about it through a little more accepting, as opposed to just acting on Khorne's will and like preaching through violence,
Preaching through violence. I like that.
Oh boy, here we go, crusading again.
It's what I do best.
Structure and organization. Like the horrific force they were birthed to challenge, the Sons of Sek are a machine of brutal discipline, honed to perfection with unswavering fanaticism. Their methods mirror the Astra Militarum, yet they have transcended their origins, becoming something far more deadly, an elite force unlike any other. The Sons of Sek are not spindly, weak creatures that make up the rabble of lesser chaos forces. Their bodies are thick and solid, towering over the malnourished conscripts of the Blood Pact and mere mortals. They are beasts of war, built to endure and destroy. They are armed with superior weapons, forged from the spoils of conquest, and equipped with higher quality gear, all supplied through a relentless, organized logistical train, one that dwarfs the pitiful scraps of the Blood Pact is forced to scavenge. Their gear is pristine, always issued and maintained with terrifying precision. Unlike the Blood Pact's mishmash of stolen, scavenged equipment, the Sons of Sek do not rely on hand-me-downs from their fallen foes. They are the ones who take what they need, demanding the best from their supply lines. Their leadership is equally uncompromising. The Sons of Sek are led with an iron fist. Unlike the Blood Pact, which operates on a brutal and bloodthirsty winner-takes-all mentality, the Sons of Sek are carefully guided by their commanders, men and women trained to lead with ruthless efficiency and cold pragmatism. Here, there is no room for weakness. Command is earned through ability, not through murder and treachery. The Sons are led by those who understand the true art of war, and the discipline is unquestionable. At the heart of this role is the Scourger, a title that sends a chill through even the most hardened soldiers. I don't know, man. Scourger's a pretty lame name. I've heard a lot better. I think they could try again on that one. Most hardened soldiers. Yeah, okay. Oh, the Cadians are shaking in their boots. These officers, akin to the Imperial Commissars, are more than mere enforcers. They shackle the wills of their soldiers with unyielding faith, commanding absolute loyalty and obedience through fear and respect. Scourges do not merely punish, they admonish, guide, and rebuke with brutal clarity. They are not just there to enforce discipline, they are the embodiments of Sek's vision, overseeing the soldiers' transformation into true instruments of war. The Scourgers' methods are a far cry from the brutish chaos found in other chaos forces. Their training regimes are cold, methodical, and eerily reminiscent of Imperial Guard's own regiments, but twisted and made into something darker. Where the Blood Pact relishes in chaos, in violence for the sake of it, the Sons of Sek are far more calculated. Their bloodlust tempered by the understanding that only through discipline and organization will true victory ever be achieved. The Sons of Sek are not mindless murderers. They are a fanatical army driven by a singular, merciless purpose, to bring all under the suffocating embrace of chaos. Their superior gear, structure, and leadership make them more than a force to be feared, but to worship. They are the true inheritors of the Blood Pact's legacy, and they will burn the Imperium to the ground in the name of their twisted vision. Yeah, so we learned a couple more things that really separates them from their cousins, the Blood Pact, and a lot of it is like, these are like soldiers, man. Like they're taking good recruits. They're taking recruits that would probably become Astartes if they didn't take them. They're going for the top tier, and then they give them the best gear that they can find. And then of course they have all the training and all that, the discipline and stuff. But yeah, the gear and just not being malnourished is probably super useful.
Yeah. Try not to malnourish your soldiers if you can.
If you can.
Yeah, no, that is cool, and it does make them distant because usually you see like the mobs of chaos hordes just wearing like the crappy equipment, whatever they can scavenge, and like that's a very typical chaos feel. Like you said, Mark, like malnourished and weak, and like they rely more on their numbers than anything to get the job done. But these guys actually could beat the crap out of you just one-on-one. Buzz in the chat back when I was talking about, I'm bringing it up again, Mark, Chinch and Sons of Set. Also brought up the goddess Sekhmet from Egypt. That actually is probably where the name comes from. Sekhmet is the lion-headed goddess, and she's a goddess of war and healing, which is actually a common thing. I think Apollo also kind of has those traits. But there's like Sekhmet kills like lots of humans, like she gets blood drunk in one myth. So like you can see like really strong ties to like a destroyer war goddess. So that's cool.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Yeah. You'll allow it. Okay, sweet. More mythology. Get it in there. Okay. Let's get into their combat doctrine. The Sons of Sek's combat combat doctrine is built on ruthless precision and fanatical obedience.
First, they pull down your pants.
That's Seks, S-E-K-S, for those listening. Mirroring the military structure of the Astra Militarum, but with terrifyingly warped twist. Each member of this warband is a cog in the machine of war, driven by unyielding discipline, relentless training, and a devotion to their vision of chaos. They strike like a hammer, efficient and unforgiving, making no room for error. Their operations are dictated by brutal pragmatism, every move calculated to achieve maximum destruction and subjugation. Someone in the chat said we're all Sons of Sek. We're all Sons of Seks is what you meant to say, I think.
I'm here from it. You're here from it.
Slaanesh. You would think it's Slaanesh warband too. These guys are so misleading. Their tactics revolve around overwhelming their enemies through a balance of methodical slaughter and the psychological terror. The Sons of Sek use advanced military doctrines refined from the once loyal Imperial general Notch's Sturm and twisted by brutality of their leadership. Every maneuver is done with the efficiency that outstrips even the most well-organized Imperial forces, focusing on overwhelming their enemies with force and superior logistics, which they maintain through well-established supply lines and the ruthless discipline of their commanders. So again, you have like a very intelligent foe. Like we always talk about like the importance of logistics to win warfare and things like that, and these guys are definitely implementing all of those things. The Scourgers, officers who ensure order and absolute obedience, command with a precision that the Sun's enemies cannot fathom. These officers are not merely taskmasters, but also the embodiment of the warband's soul, keeping morale high while ensuring no weakness or hesitation infects their ranks. Under their watch, the Sons of Sek move with eerie calm, striking fast and brutal in their attacks, aiming for decimation rather than simple victory. Every kill serves a sacred purpose, with the worship of chaos at the heart of their bloodlust. Yeah, that's cool too. That like, yes, they're achieving like strategic objectives and stuff, but they're still also maximizing casualties because, you know, still got to worship the chaos god. They're not satisfied with just breaking their enemies' morale or getting them to retreat. They're still going for body count.
Yeah, for
Always
sure.
important. To the Sons of Sek, battle is not only an act of war, it is a sacred ritual, an offering to the forces of the warp. Strength, unity, and sacrifice are their core tenets. While the Blood Pact relies on savage chaos and unrelenting brutality, the Sons of Sek apply discipline, turning slaughter into a sacred art of total annihilation. They do not seek to merely conquer, they seek to purge and enlighten, forcing the Imperium's twisted creations into the fold of chaos, one ruined soul at a time.
Man, crazy. Yeah, I bet these guys almost even want to capture you so they can try to torture you and convert you that way. I can picture them using a lot of like weapons that don't necessarily maim you or kill you, I mean, but just kind of maim you so you can then be captured and then kind of tortured and converted. Because yeah, that's one of their primary things. It's like, before you die, you must know that your god is actually real. He is a real warp entity god. You like like
I just really need you to know this.
I just need you to know this.
That is funny too, because like, how do you convert people if you're slaughtering them too at the same time? Which I guess is a question you could pose for a lot of historical events too. But I digress.
It's for their own good. Tough love, I call it.
Clearly, yeah. Jordan takes the same approach with his children.
Pretty much. And on that note, let's get into the war gear. Their tools of punishment that they use. The Sons of Sek are clad in the unmistakable garb of sacrificial warriors. Their uniforms a twisted reflection of their unholy devotion. Their ochre fatigues are stained with the blood of their enemies, worn as a badge of honor, a grim testament to their unyielding commitment to their cause. Over their shoulders and greaves, they wear chain and plate mail, a jagged mix of practicality and brutality that signals their readiness for slaughter. Their jackboots strike the earth with a resounding thud, the leather fastenings and grip biting into their fatigues like chains of the damned. The leather itself is no mere material. It is the flayed hide of their victims, meticulously stripped from the bones of the dead. The nut brown leather woven with purple thread serves as both armor and testament to their power, a constant reminder of the broken bodies of those foolish enough to challenge them. Gold braid adorns the officers, marking them as leaders, a signal of their supremacy over the rank and file, who bear the mark of the fallen on their very flesh. The helmets of the Sons of Sek are more than mere headgear. Each is fitted with a hand clasp, a brutal trophy taken from the mouths of the dead. The clasp in the shape of a hand closing around the mouth of the wearer is wrought from the hands of their slain foes, an eternal symbol of their allegiance to the Anarch, the god whose voice drowns all others. This is not just desperation. It is a sacrifice, a symbol of silenced voices of those who once dared to stand against him.
Oh, well, I'm glad their severed hand of their enemy that they strap over their own faiths and just let it rot there isn't just a decoration. You know, too often does chaos allow their grisly scraps to be just decorations. There's meaning, purpose behind this hand, this rotting hand.
Oh
Yeah.
man, the smell just always in
smell.
your face.
Now, this is the craziest artwork of them. Definitely, I've said Google sometimes, but definitely go Google some Sons of Sek in the artwork, because you'll always see that they'll have like a hand on their belt, like a severed hand there. They'll have it on their face, like they said, covering it. It just is truly grisly and gross and yikes.
It's also really cool too that there's a couple of third-party companies that sell chaotic heads that do have the hands sculpted onto the face, covering the face, the severed hands. I believe, I want to say Anvil Industries and Mad Robot Miniatures both make heads. So if you also want to model these guys at home, just know there are places to source these heads.
Indeed. Yeah, that's
Oh, thank God. But
pretty cool.
I thought it was the hand sourcing that was the problem, not the head. Yeah, fucking rank. I love it though. It's
Horrific.
very messed up. Horrific, yeah.
All right. Their armament is as deadly as their appearance. Armed with standard issue las carbines and las guns, the Sons of Sek are masters of ranged destruction. Their weapons honed and forged in the fires of Forge Worlds, where the Space Hulk Salvations reach. Troopers carry las pistol sidearms, while officers wield auto pistols, ensuring they can slaughter with precision at all ranges. Each soldier is issued a combat knife, a tool for close quarter murder, and a ritual knife, an instrument for dark rites of the sanguinary worlds, steeped in blood and darkness, used to honor the ancient twisted ceremonies that bind them to their cause. The Sons of Sek are not just soldiers, they are living weapons, wrapped in the flesh of their victims, wielding death as both armor and weapon. They are fanatics, vessels of slaughters, draped in the spoils of their conquest. Their every step a step towards annihilation. To stand before them is to stand before the void, where the voice of the Anarch is the only sound that matters, drowning out all that came before.
Oh, yeah, fun. Yeah, so they're just like super elite. They're very good soldiers for sure. They don't have any named characters that I could find really of any interest beyond their main kind of leader guy. But I did find some cool battles that they participated in, and we can go through them. The first one is the Lexia Bastion incident. Resistance fighters compromised of the surviving PDF and guard contingents of the chaos-held world of Girion staged an assault on the Lactitia Bastion, the heart of the Chaos Administration, as a diversion to allow a kill team led by Colonel Abram Gaunt to assassinate the traitor general Noches Sturm. Despite being caught by surprise, the Sons proved victorious in the engagement, completely exterminating the assault forces, in spite of being unable to protect their mentor. Yeah, even when they kind of were ambushed, they were still able to come out on top. Liberation of Girion. The Sons were at the forefront in the attempt to deny the Imperials control of Girion during the liberation effort, and nearly succeeded in fatally stopping the Imperial advance in the city of Kethadrak. However, they were foiled at the last minute by a desperate Imperial counterattack, led by armored units, and were forced to withdraw. Whilst being able to inflict disproportionately high losses on the Imperial Guard during their staged retreat. So just another sign of them being just better, man. Even when they lose, they're still able to like maintain discipline. Like normally in war, when an enemy forces routes, that's when the war is like really won. That's when all the damage, all the killing really begins. But not for these guys. They fall back and they do what they need to do. Salvation's Reach. The Sons were the principal defenders of the Space Hulk Salvation's Reach, and were quite successful at holding the line, but were ultimately foiled by the presence of 3 Space Marines who had accompanied in the assault, from the Silver Guard, the Iron Snakes, and the White Scars. They were, however, lured into a distraction while the Astra Militarum inflicted irreparable damage to the research facilities inside the Space Hulk, and the units stationed there were presumably lost as the Reach suffered substantial damage and destruction, which was inflicted by the Imperials. I like this one just because it talks a little bit more about Salvation's Reach, that Space Hulk that they have, that has some cool capabilities. You know, it's making weapons and stuff for this whole kind of situation, and what a cool bad guy fortress lair to have.
Space Hulk, yes. Yeah, people sometimes forget that Chaos utilizes Space Hulk slots too. It's always like associated with Gene Stealers and Orcs, but Chaos makes use of them.
Yeah.
They are a valuable asset.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the information I had on the Sons of Sek. Now we're going to do a little side-by-side comparison between the Blood Pact and the Sons of Sek, and then after that, maybe we'll pick a favorite. Who do we like more? Who are we going to join? But yeah, take it away.
The Sons of Sek and the Blood Pact are bound by a shared allegiance to chaos, yet they represent two distinct fanatical expressions of that devotion. The Blood Pact, led by the brutal Urlock Gaur, is a force driven by raw savagery and a hunger for violent conquest, thriving on chaotic spontaneity and the scorched earth tactics they employ in every battle. They are warriors of pure bloodlust, existing solely to rip apart the Imperium through brutal, unrelenting aggression. Their ranks are filled with soldiers who revel in the violence of war and the disordered chaos of battle without regard for subtlety or cohesion. In contrast, the Sons of Sek, commanded by the calculating and ambitious Anakwanar Sek, are far more disciplined and methodical force. While they share the Blood Pact's devotion to chaos, they apply the loyalty through a structured military mindset. Trained in the ways of the Astra Militarum, the Sons of Sek fight with a precision and coordination that starkly contrasts with the Blood Pact's recklessness. They are cold, efficient killers, following doctrines honed from the Imperial military strategy, and while they share the same objective, to bring the Imperium to ruin, they do so with a much more calculated approach. The relationship between the two factions is one of necessary collaboration and rivalry. While the Blood Pact thrives on the savagery of war, the Sons of Sek's methodical nature provides a counterbalance, adding a strategic edge to their collective efforts. The Sons of Sek were even created in part to serve as a vanguard for Anakwanar Sek's eventual ambition to overthrow Urlock Gaur, aiming to usurp the Blood Pact's dominance and seize command of the forces of chaos in the Sabbat Worlds. Though they fight together on the same side, there is an underlying tension, a quiet betrayal that simmers beneath the surface as the Sons of Sek eye the Blood Pact not only as allies but as obstacles to their ultimate ascendancy. Thus, while the Sons of Sek and the Blood Pact may operate in unison in the name of chaos, they represent different visions of the same goal. The Blood Pact is driven by savage destruction, while the Sons of Sek seek to refine that destruction into something more orderly, more calculating, and ultimately more dangerous. In the end, they are both tools of chaos, but each one seeks to obliterate without thought, while the other seeks to reshape the universe in the image of their own twisted ideology.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. So which one do you think you guys like more? I think for me, I like the Blood Pact a little more. I like how many different times they stack up kind of that conundrum where it's like, what, you got gore mages, you got psychers there? Oh, you're not just berserkers. I think I lean towards that a little bit.
I like the elitism of the Sons of Sek. Like, they are good at what they do. They're strong. They're capable. They are, they have the best gear. Like, they are like they almost feel like stormtroopers or Tempestus Scions to regular guardsmen, right? That's kind of like the vibe I get. You have guardsmen, and then you have like, yeah, they're like the scions of them. So yeah, I really like the Sons of Sek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Sons of Sek too, actually. Like, I'm kind of with you. The elitism. I just like seeing the best of the best in any given field, and in the field of serving Khorne and slaughtering masses of people. I think it's got to go to Sons of Sek.
Okay. Well, we got some call-ins, and we'll chat with them. Who do they like? Up first, we're gonna call Skeleton to the stage. Hey, what's going on?
Not too much. Been enjoying this episode for sure.
Have you ever heard of these guys before?
No, I haven't. I think the last podcast that I was part of, we chatted a bit, and I've been just going through Horus Heresy one by one. So a lot of the newer 40K stuff I just haven't heard much of outside of the podcast. So it's all brand new to me.
Nice. Which one kind of did you like more? Did you even like them at all? Would you ever be a follower of Khorne and Chaos in the first place? So you're a scumbag?
Not a scumbag. I definitely like the Sons of Sek a little bit more. I really like the idea of yeah, you might be different in terms of philosophy, but the structures, tactics, strategies of the Imperium is still something you find value in. I think that's just super, super cool.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
unique
Yeah,
for
yeah.
chaos.
Yeah, and it just shows like, okay, you can have a different philosophy, but you can still go back to your roots and still see some, advantage in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How do you think these forces, like, how do they maintain discipline when all of it is just broken down to chaos? Like, when you serve chaos, obviously it's very chaotic place. How are they whipping people to maintain the ranks? You think they just straight up, you disobey, you get killed, flayed? Like, what's their kind of way to make people stay the line, toe the line?
I think it's a lot of the standard Imperium tactics at its core, the indoctrination. The Sons of Sek have almost like a commissar figure behind them.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that
Um,
too with the scourges or whatever. Very kind of commissar light watchers.
yeah, and I was thinking throughout this episode, anger kind of takes many forms, and when I think Khorne, I think anger. And just sometimes it's something that you kind of let fester and build inside you, and you might take revenge in a really spectacular way, but it seems
One
these
can
two
hope.
factions are like the kind where you plan it out, and the planning is half the fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like a cold calculating rage. Like, yeah, I'm gonna screw you over like badly, but I'm gonna take my time to do it and like figure out how to hurt you the worst. Not just like
Exactly.
letting rage take you, like punching someone out in a bar fight.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would imagine it's so hard in the heat of battle to keep all your soldiers in line. Like when all of them are truly struck by that bloodlust, that would be the hardest part. Not necessarily when they're being routed and have to retreat or something like that. It's like, yeah, when they're deep in the bloodlust, being overthrown by it, like that's when it's the hardest to stay disciplined for them.
I imagine I imagine also like discipline too can be instilled in troops without having like, yeah, it sure helps to have like a commissar figure or like how you typically picture the rabbles of chaos with some kind of overseer whipping them into compliance. But like if they're true believers in their philosophy, that is an important piece in maintaining that discipline,
Sure.
right? Like they
Okay.
are at their core disciplined warriors. That's how they're taught and trained. So like they
Yeah.
do take it to heart as a true, genuine belief.
Yeah, and they're doing it for a god that they actually believe in, who could potentially give them like immortal life. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to maintain some discipline and cohesion.
Would the kind of ascension into the war being fully embraced by chaos, this is the primary motivation of all these guys? Like
Yeah,
to just
kind of
be
sounded
close
like
to
it.
Khorne? Y-
Yeah, like they want to first, make sure everyone in the material world know that the emperor is not a god. Apparently, he's a warp entity, different type
Or
of god. And then
he is a god, just a different god, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then that afterlife, that what's gonna happen with the soul? Well, when these guys die, they want Khorne to bless them and give them a good spot or whatever, or at least not devour them instantly. So
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah, they're a fun little faction. Do you have any other thoughts before we get to our next call in?
Not too much. I think that was about it. I just think, I mean, it's always fun to just dive down the rabbit hole and just see more and more layers as you go down. So it's been a fascinating episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Warhammer is for sure never short of layers to go down. That's for sure.
No. All right, Skeleton, thanks for calling in.
Thanks for having me.
See ya.
All right. Up next, we got Grimaldus. We'll give him a second to give me a nod here. And yo, welcome to the show, Grim.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Ooh,
Good,
mucho
good.
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 So we'll start with the easy question for you. Who do you kind of vibe with more?
I like the sect. Honestly, I think exactly what Skelly was saying there. You know, you have this Imperium kind of based organization, very loose terms, of course. But I mean, what a better way how to corrupt individuals that are already kind of starting to have some lack of faith in the Emperor. You know, he's just another warp god. You know, come worship our warp god, but like we have the same kind of structure.
Yeah,
Be
we're
hard
not
not
that
to fall
different,
into that.
right? Yeah.
You just
Pardon?
gotta cut your hand once to join our cool club. It's fine. Just one
mean,
deep
what's-
dash.
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it aligning. You know, in the midst of the episode, obviously we had a Khorne episode, so I couldn't help myself. But I quick built a nice little Khorne here.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh,
Khorne the
nice.
Betrayer himself.
Yeah, so I just finished that up, and I don't know, man. You guys just really had the inspiration to push me to fucking do that finally. So,
Well, you're not done.
wall of Go ahead.
You're not done yet. Now you got to buy a warband of cultists to follow him. I'm
Mhm.
thinking
Ah.
a decent group of Sons of Sek might be a good place to start.
Well, you know what? I have a whole bunch of gray ones downstairs in the basement, and I'm pretty sure I could make that happen. However,
Oh, but
there's no such thing as enough Warhammer, so
This is the only one truth in the universe that we can actually fully confirm.
that's really what the Imperial truth is. Like, none of that other propaganda bullshit. Buy Warhammer.
Bye.
Buy. No.
All right, here's the next question we got. How might the Imperium exploit the ideological and tactical differences between the Blood Pact and the Sons of Sek to weaken both forces? Can you play into this like over-disciplined, you know, maybe lead them into traps a little easier or predict what they're going to get up to, or...
I think there definitely is a way that the Imperium can take advantage of that situation. Obviously, if it's going to bring it back to kind of a faith-based situation, what a great way how to sever the ties between each faction and bring it back to whether it be martial prowess, which you know, Khorne is very, very well known for, but you drive that stake in between and you do the divide based on how closely aligned it is to the Imperium. And who's to say that it's not a subcult of the Imperium posing as Khorne? Like, yeah.
There we go.
You go full circle with it. They become so traitor, they're actually loyalist again.
No, I knew it was going to happen.
The Emperor is just another part of Khorne, another embodiment of Khorne. He's just an ordered war god, you know?
It's all one and the same.
Yeah. On that note, also, Mark, I think you can definitely, like, their greatest asset is also their greatest weakness, is they're really recycling Imperial tactics and stuff. So the Imperium does know to some degree what they're going to do. That's just unexpected coming from a Khornate warband. But they're playing off Imperial playbooks, which means that the Imperium should know how to counter its own maneuvers and things. So
More bodies.
Yeah, just more meat for the grinder. You know, just feed Khorne a little bit better.
Yeah, that's the worst approach.
the enemy
Fun
charges, you just charge twice as hard.
Exactly.
Okay, next question here. Does the Blood Pact's willingness to embrace sorcery and mutation and even Xenos make them more dangerous to the Imperium? And should other factions kind of take up that same lead?
I think it's kind of a double-edged sword in that aspect. Does it make them more powerful? Yes, but it can also weaken them. Like, the reason why the Imperium is as strong as it is right now, or has been, is because of their unification amongst one race. Not saying that that's the right way, but you know, if you're going to lead, lead by examples, the Imperium had structured it in such a way. Or even if you look at the Eldar aren't really known to work with a whole lot of other races, and if they do, they're still lesser beings than them.
Yeah.
So like I can see kind of both ends of the coin there, that you open up your doors, allow all these extra Xenos, whatever traitor warbands to come through and fill out your ranks. But how well are they going to mesh with everybody else amongst those, especially if you are a follower of Khorne? So if you don't have, Khorne as that icon, you're taking all these other people in to possibly risk civil riots within your own
Sure.
warbands.
Yeah. Just you lack that cohesive force, which is kind of their whole thing, really. Disciplined, cohesive, and yeah. Like they have the allies, the Loxatol or whatever. They can barely even communicate with them. Like, how do you really? Yeah, okay, it's a benefit to use them as kind of sacrificial units or whatever, or send them in spots where they're going to do well. But there's not much to it outside of that for at least that Xenos faction.
It's like a lesser version of an Ogryn, if we're going to bring it back to the Imperium. An Ogryn at least has some brains. Point there. Everyone shoots that.
Sure.
Okay, well, it's the stage or two down from that. Maybe a couple chromosomes missing from an Ogryn.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Do you have any other thoughts there, or?
Nope.
Just that you're going to start building one. Yeah. So next time we see you, you have a full army on your shelf, right?
Yeah, we could probably make that happen. Yeah, go down to the basement. We'll show you guys the basement someday.
If you have any lizardmen models kicking around too, you can make some Loxolotl or Loxol.
So I have some of the old school Tyranid models, like the really nasty looking ones. I think that would be a pretty good one versus them standing upright like this. Just kind of put them like that.
That could almost work.
Yeah, I'm googling a picture. Yeah, okay, they're pretty. They could work. Which Tyranid do you have?
It looks like ET, but all of his limbs are super fucking swollen.
Interesting. Yeah,
I'll link one. I'll link one in the Discord later. But it's
You should almost put a model that old up on a shelf somewhere as a sacred object. Not
so. I actually have myself. I have myself a Lord of Change. Lord of Change, still in the blister pack from 1992. And everyone asked me, "Are you gonna put that together?" Like, no, I'm gonna put that behind a fucking shadow box so no one can touch it. Maybe just a little hammer there, like, need to quick get them and build them.
Break in case of emergency.
Exactly. Now's the time.
If all the Warhammer in the world somehow disappears, that's when you.
Yeah,
that's when it's time.
What the fuck is this piece of garbage?
On the topic of just like old Warhammer stuff, Lorehammer is in the talks of getting Rick Priestley on the show, and I think it's going to happen pretty quick within the month here.
That's really exciting.
Very fucking cool. For those who don't know, Rick Priestley is one of the few guys, one of the co-founders of Games Workshop way back in the day, and he's like, he did more of the rules and stuff than the actual lore. But
I don't think he founded Games Workshop itself. I don't think he founded Games Workshop, the company, but he's one of the three guys that made Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40K.
That's kind of how I knew it.
I think GW was a company that like brought him in.
Okay.
But yeah, he's like I think he's the only living godfather of 40K, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I think the other two are passed away,
but yeah, we've been shooting emails back and forth. We just find the time now. So that's going to be pretty cool to get, somebody who has such knowledge about 40K on. So
are you guys gonna harass him in terms of like which direction Games Workshop went with it? Like I'm concerned, but I'm excited all at the same time for this.
Yeah, I did write down a couple questions on the end where I'm like, you definitely don't have to answer these, but like, why the heck did you leave Games Workshop? And how do you think Games Workshop is doing right now as like a company, as like a lore product, as a game, all that kind of stuff? We'll see if we can get an answer out of them.
Is he involved in anything else at the moment?
Oh yeah, lots of stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's been pretty active. It'll all come out in that episode, but he founded Warlord Games that do a ton of their own stuff. Beyond the Gates of Venturis is their kind of sci-fi stuff, but Warlord Games really specializes in
Oh, I didn't know that was
adventures.
them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gates of Venturis is him too.
Okay,
So,
that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your 60
I'm-
pages just grew to 120 now.
Yeah, goddamn, the notes grow. All right, Rick, I know we said only 30-minute interview, but now that I have you here, might as well just go for 5 hours.
6 days.
6 days.
I mean, Graham McNeil hung around a little bit longer. I mean, what's one more?
Yeah, what's one more? I forget who it was. Oh, it was Rambo on the Discord. He goes to the same Games Workshop as Aaron Dembski Bowden, and he's been harassing him to come on Lorehammer. So we'll see if that ever manifests. But if you ever see any of these people, like, there's no way they haven't heard of Lorehammer, and they might just be waiting for that invite or that email. So definitely, if you ever reach out to any of them, like, definitely do it.
Or if they're
we can just
listening
get
right
a
now.
lookalike. Yes, listeners
Or
right
that.
now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe that's the easier option. I use an AI voice bot of them, and I just interview an AI voice bot, and I don't even have to worry about them not answering my questions. Do you think I'm pretty, Mr. Rick Priestley?
It
Can I date
matters
your
so
daughter?
much to me.
It matters so much.
I didn't
Graham.
think Panama was Mormons down there. All right, I'll leave you guys to it. Thanks a lot for having me on. Take care, boys.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got time for one more, and there's still Fuzz in the chat. He's always painting his minis, so we'll give him a second to get ready. And hey, Fuzz, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Really
Hey,
good.
Fuzz.
Good,
Quick
good.
aside,
What are you
Jordan
working on
Christian.
today?
Right now, I'm working on. I think it's one of the Forge World variants of the Riptide. I think this one was the Ravarna model.
Yeah, the flamer one.
yeah.
Fucking tight.
Okay, it's not the flavor one. That one's downstairs. It's the other one that has
Ah.
like just the two fucking big plasma cannons or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah. But quick aside, Jordan and Christian, I've been listening to a lot of Star Wars also. I've been catching up on that. Fucking great.
Nice.
But
Thanks.
I see your Star Wars memorabilia in the back there.
Yeah. But yeah, Khorne, it's been awesome listening to this. Like, I'm not a huge chaos guy, so learning about the chaos in any way, shape, or form, like with the previous Fulgrim episodes and with this, has just been wonderful. And especially the variation on the chaos cults, like you guys had talked about, with them being more stable, being more organized, being more tactically minded. Because what I'm used to is things that you know from that you'd see in like the Warhammer Plus shows or on like Secret Level, the cultists you'd see there, things like that. So getting this other version of them was really, really cool. Almost, kind of like you have like the Chaos Astartes as that chaotic reflection of the Adeptus Astartes. Now you have, a more actual reflection of the Imperial Guard in these Khorne cultists and the Blood Pact and Sons of Sek.
Yeah. Like Forge World had a bunch of renegade traitor Imperial Guardsmen for a while, but like they're out of print for a long time now. But like the galaxy is probably fighting between regiments of traitors and loyalists more so than like how often are Chaos Space Marines really coming to the battle? How often is it actually just, traitor regiments versus loyalist regiments fighting? Probably pretty often.
Yeah. And if I had to pick one of them, probably of course, like as soon as I jump on, my daughter's been asleep this entire time. Probably
Totally understand. Yeah. My daughter sometimes tries to sneak into the show too.
Yeah.
Happens to the best.
Right. Would you rather me get off just for ease of a tiny child?
Your call. Yeah, up to you. Did she have a question? Put her on. Let me talk to her.
Right. I'll just real quick. So I think I'm actually on Mark's side with the Blood Pact. Just kind of being that kind of middle ground where they have that more traditional hyper aggressiveness of Khorne cultists than the Sons of Sek, but they still do have that more like tactics minded approach for like ambushes and strategic assaults more than just like we're going to charge straight at them and see how well this does, and a bunch of us are going to die in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It is
Yeah, and
more
I think I
chaos.
like them too. Just yeah, just a little more chaos, you know. Although it's pretty fucking chaotic in rank to cut off somebody's hand and then strap it to your face as a sign of,
That's
you know, they're no longer able to speak.
that is pretty metal as hell, yeah.
Yeah, well, what
Fuck.
the Sons of Sek lack in their chaotic fighting style, they make up for in their brutal
In their drip.
armaments and what. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're just
and their
all
swag.
right, yeah. It like seems like they all have some really nice swag from taking over those Forge Worlds and actually knowing how to utilize the like Astra Militarum equipment like to its fullest extent.
Yeah, they're very cool. Yeah, both of them are very cool. I just like these kind of one-offers where, yeah, they open up so much more of like creative opportunities. Like, okay, so let's go through the other Chaos Gods and like, what does a variation on their kind of cultists look like? You know, if we have Nurgle guys, these super corrupted, like pussy Nurgling people. Well, what if we did another trait Nurgle instead of decay? We did life, where it's like, I don't know, they're super healthy or something, just out of the box. Maybe that's not the best example, but maybe maybe they regrow limbs very quickly. So if they get shot, they heal super quick. You know?
Yeah, they can regenerate. Yeah.
Okay, like some like I'm just imagining like some like crunchy like hippie Nurgle like chaos cultists, just on that like more life side of things.
Yes.
We don't believe in killing, man. We just
Yes.
want you
Yeah,
to join in
exactly.
the dance of life with us. And just infest you with diseases.
Yeah, or like they drop on a
unfortunately
planet.
for you, the dance of life starts with death.
Right, or like they drop on a planet and just cause the like growth of all the local flora and fauna to just go haywire because it's just so rapid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, like these kind of episodes, yeah, that's what they kind of just all of a sudden start to make me think, like, what else is out there in the 40k universe? It's not always just the standard kind of run-of-the-mill chaos.
Exactly, and that's the wonderful thing is the galaxy is so big, and as much as the Imperium and Chaos and all the Xenos, as much as they occupy in the space, there's just so much more room for anything that someone wanted to create.
I hear there's a Chaos Warband out there for everyone. All you have to do is look hard enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Any other thoughts there, Fuzz? Or
no, not specifically. Thanks for having me on. Everyone listening, join the Imperial Tithe. Even that $1, if nothing else, just join the Discord, come hang out with us. Just that extra, that interaction just makes all of our days better.
Yeah, it's always a good time for sure. All right, cool. Thanks, Fuzz. And then there were three, Christian and Jordan and me. We made it to the end of another episode, and no one has turned to a chaos god. Everyone's wrists are still intact. That's good.
I don't know. I'm feeling like Chaos did
Feeling
nothing
off
wrong, or Khorne did nothing wrong.
It's starting. The disease is starting in Jordan's mind.
Gosh.
I feel it bubbling up inside of me. Anyways.
And how do you feel about the Emperor?
I don't know. That guy's a little suspect. I'm not so sure anymore.
On the next podcast, Jordan will just have a hand strapped to his face.
Yeah, cool. Well, fun episode, good times. Let's do some end of the notes and then we'll get out of here. Come check me out on Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. It's a podcast where I read your homebrew lore. If you've written up your own crazy army lore, send it in. I'll read it off. Me and a couple other people will read it off for you. So go check out Lorehammer Listener Lore podcast.
And if you like to listen to me and Jordan talk about Star Wars, come check out Star Lores. It's our Other Side Project podcast, where we delve deep into Star Wars legends. We have nice scripted episodes at the beginning, and then we go into like more discussion style format at halfway through towards the end of the show. So yeah, come check us out. We're trying to grow our YouTube base. We do post our podcast to YouTube as well. So just go over there and subscribe to us there too.
And yes, that is a threat from Christian. If you don't,
We will Death Star the Earth if you guys don't do it.
they have the means. Cool. We got a new Patreon member since a couple days ago, and that is Amanda. And I don't believe it's actually a girl, probably just some cross-dressing dude. Because there are no girls in 40K. I just recently went through some ad marketing campaigns and stuff, and they're wondering about my male to female ratio. And I had more people who wouldn't identify as a gender than I do women listening to the podcast. So there are more men out there that think they're women listening to this show than actual women, which I like. So thank you, though, Amanda, for joining the Patreon. All right, boys. What?
No, I was gonna say, is it spelled Amanda? D-U-A?
Oh shit, you're right. It is. I just was too dumb in my reading. I couldn't pick that up. Oh man, here we go. Well, thanks anyways. Yeah, seriously though, thanks for joining the Patreon. If you want to join, that's always super cool. We have a bunch of stuff on there. Go check it out. We're starting to do some contests on the Discord too, so that's another little reason to join the Patreon. But yeah, we'll see you all on the next episode. I think it's going to be a Tyranid episode. I think we're going to dive into Neurogaunts and kind of some psychic creatures like that. So it's going to be fun. Christian, thanks for joining me. Jordan, pleasure.
Thank you.